Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, children of appropriate ages, get ready for the AZA Commander Podcast. Greetings and salutations. The zombie apocalypse here, and I'm with my co-host, Tim, also known as Jet. You want to give yourself an introduction?
Yep, my name's Tim. Online, my handle is Jetterx. So you can see me on Magic Arena, very, very seldomly on Moto, and I play a lot on spelltable as well.
Short ways to support the podcast. We stream Magic the Gathering Thursday and Friday nights, starting at 10:30 Eastern. We play Commander with random people on spelltable. I also have a YouTube channel, and hopefully soon we'll be on other podcasts, listening places. Just like, comment, subscribe, do all those cool things. It would be fantastic. Our main topic for today is Magiccon Philly, and like our thoughts going into it and how we thought the event went as a whole. So why don't you go ahead and give us a thought of, like, before we got there, what kind of things were you expecting or goals that you had going into it?
So I am, for context, I think it's useful to talk a little bit about my own experience going to big events that are based in Magic, and then also going into events that are not. Because I've been to a lot of conventions that have nothing to do with MTG, so I had at least some context for what that was going to be like. So I've been to a lot of board game conventions, a lot of like other nerd adjacent things, live action role playing stuff, things of that nature. So and I've been to a couple of things at the Philly Convention Center, so I had some context there. And I've been to pre-releases. I know that Zombie and I both remember back in the day. We're old and crusty.
We're old and crusty, yeah.
The dinosaurs we are. We remember what it was like to go to a larger city to play in a gigantic pre-release, to play in a 200 or 300 person event at a bigger convention center like this. So I expected this was going to be the mashing together of those things, that it was going to have some of the elements of a different fandoms kind of convention, but then also have, all of the Magic content and things of that nature. So and I'll talk a little bit more later about the expectations I had and kind of whether or not they were met. I have to say that one expectation that I had going in, as far as the vendors were concerned, is I thought that there were going to be vendors that had, or I thought there were going to be more vendors that had kind of Magic related paraphernalia, or perhaps things that were more handmade, or things that were like kind of more small business ish, because a lot of other conventions that are like nerd adjacent definitely do.
Okay.
They have like your Etsy shops, where it's very clearly one or two people who are running this business who have made these things lovingly by hand. So I'll talk a little bit more about that later. So those were some of my expectations going in.
Sweet. So some of the expectations I had, it has been so long since I've done a large event. I think it was Cold Snap. Back, I did a pre-release. That was the last convention that I went to. And Cold Snap, I was still in high school. So like, I didn't really know what to expect with the vendors, because like before it was just in one big room. There was a whole bunch of tables in the middle, and there was vendors on the outside of the room. And all it was just a couple of card shops that would park shop and sell you singles. So I didn't even think about like tchotchkes or other Magic paraphernalia that you could get. But I wasn't sure like how big or like how grandiose this event was. Like, it was over 2 floors and a whole hallway of just free play areas and everything like that. So like, my expectation was, I actually had more goals than expectations. My goals were, I had very specific goals. I wanted to get a foil Door to Nothingness. That was the first goal that I needed to get, and so I had to do it. And then I wanted to get that door signed by everyone from the command zone, because I had the idea of sending their regards when I kill people with a Door to Nothingness. And then I wanted to get a lot of trading done. I also wanted to get I wanted to buy some cards. Um, I was hoping to get a lot of trading done, and I definitely wanted to see the game nights live, which was fantastic, by the way. And yeah, so those were like the goals that I had going into the convention. So what kind of goals did you have?
So you hit on a couple of them, and you made me think of them as you were mentioning them. So in preparation for the event, I looked at all the commander decks I currently have. Which a little while ago, I made the goal of making a commander deck in each of the two color combinations. So I have one for each of the like Ravnica guilds, and it took me a really long time to do it, but I got there. So I sat down and made a list for each of those decks as to what cards in an ideal world Magic Christmas Land, what are the cards that I would have in this deck, or what am I missing? So that's what I had going in, and that was going to be my trade list. I was going to sit down and trade with people and have this list I could drop out. Like, here we go. This is what I'm looking for. So that was a big goal of mine, and I actually I think I enjoy trading with people. It's
Yeah,
kind
me
of part of
too.
the process that I don't get to do a whole lot, and especially over the last couple of years with less in-person
It's
events,
been a struggle
we've had
for
very,
real.
very little. And so we haven't had any time to or opportunity really to do that trading. And as people who have played the game as long as we have pretty,
Quite the
big trade
extension.
binders.
Yeah, I have three current binders, and
Right.
I also did the same thing, but like I didn't want to bring up a whole bunch of stuff, so like I go through all my trade binders, and I brought like maybe 10 or 15 cards of each color, going varying in price from like $3 to $5 all the way up to $7,500 of like valued cards. And I didn't want to I didn't want to carry three binders going into the event. Like I thought it would be just such a hassle. So I was like, I'm gonna narrow it down to these few cards, and we'll go deeper into that later. But I think it was a mistake.
Well, that brings up the like, what decks are you going to bring question two, right?
Yes.
Because you have to carry stuff around, and any Magic player knows what we're talking about when we say this is a consideration that you have to make before going to any large event. What are the things that I really want to carry around with me? And again, I just said I have 10 decks at this point,
I think I'm
and I
sitting at
am
like 15 or 16.
right,
I
and
don't
I'm
even know
not
the total anymore. It's sad.
and that's the kind of players that we are. I'm very proud of that for both of us.
I know, right?
That's where we're at with it. But it does make you do that calculation going
Right.
into an event like this. And I think for me, there's a lot of calculation that goes into that decision. Not just what do I want to play, but what do I think other people are going to want to play against, or really more importantly, not play against. Like,
Right.
do I have a deck that is kind of salt inducing, that isn't really going to be good for this kind of like drop in, drop out play style? Do I want to take the super competitive deck? Do I want to take and again, you and I have talked about this a lot. We don't really have anything that qualifies as CEDH,
CEDH, right.
right? We consider ourselves casual players, but we're also whales. So,
Mm-hmm.
I don't mind telling on myself and saying, I played long enough and have an extensive enough collection that our decks are powerful. So, but we still
Yeah.
have a scale, and
Oh,
there
of
is the one
course.
deck that's like, this one's really nuts. Is this
Mm-hmm.
the one that
I
takes
did
the
I did end up bringing that one.
right?
I mean, you kind of
And
have to, yeah.
so I didn't, but there were two reasons for that. One, it's actually one of the newest decks that I have built, and I actually don't have a whole lot of experience with it.
Oh,
But also I wasn't really sure that I wanted to play a deck that was that. That being said, I brought Sahili, which
mm-hmm.
is
That's a
up,
that's a that's a
which is
pretty
up
powerful
there.
one, yeah.
It is. It's up there. So, but I think that we have to. There's so many factors that come into play when we think about what are we going to bring along in terms of trades. What am I going to bring along in terms of like support paraphernalia? Like how many?
Mm-hmm.
Am I bringing more than one play mat? We got a play mat when we
Yep.
showed
Yeah.
up. So do we really need to bring one? And we both did.
We of course we did. I mean, my playmat's adorable, so
Right. So, and mine gets noticed. Like
oh,
mine's a conversation
it definitely
starter. It
is.
really is, and it's a way for me to relate to people because it's something that I really love very well. So, um, so yeah, I think that so as far as goals went, to circle back and answer your question finally, uh,
We'll get there. We'll get there.
I definitely wanted to trade, and I definitely wanted to get the command zone random games in. I was definitely hoping to pick up some things that were, I wanted to pick up some Magic paraphernalia that was, I was some swag. I'm actually, I'm wearing
The swag. Oh yeah.
wearing the swag right now. One piece of it. But I was, and I know I already said I would talk about this more, but I was really hoping to find more kind of personalized handmade stuff.
Yeah, like the keychain that I have with the island. Yeah, I didn't even think about
Right.
stuff like that. Yeah.
Right. Like I've gone to I got that at a different convention that was much smaller from an Etsy vendor who I've seen at a whole bunch of conventions. And I don't know that this scene would work for folks like that, but I definitely was hoping to see more of that.
Yeah. So, what decks did you bring to the event, and why did you pick those over others?
So I brought, and I'll kind of I'll itemize here. I'll
Mm-hmm.
tell you the deck and then why I brought it. So the one I brought is Saheeli the Gifted. Obviously for anybody who's listening, you can look it up to see what it does. It is
I'll show it on the screen.
Right, it's an Izzet commander. It's a very artifact based deck. So it's a planeswalker who could be a commander, which makes it unique. It's the only one of those that I play, and it has some of the most powerful cards that I own in it. And artifact ramp makes for some really big and splashy plays, and that's why I like that deck a lot. I actually don't think that it's optimized on such a level that it is overpowered or enough to be considered
Right.
competitive, but it is powerful enough to kind of hang out in a high powered mod. So I wanted to bring one that fit that category. Second, very similarly, I brought Jolene the Plunder Queen.
Love that deck.
And it is incredibly fun to play. It's very synergistic, but because of the nature of how Jolene is worded, it's got a little bit of group hug aspect to it because other people benefit from it. So usually they'll leave me alone long enough to really get set up. And then when that happens, that deck is the same thing. It's really big, splashy plays. Like it can do things like kill people with Inferno of the Star Mounts
Love
ability. Which is so fun.
That's the one where you pay 20 and then it deals 20. Yeah. Well,
so it's like you swing at one person and you're getting it for lethal, and you accidentally kill somebody else in the process. So it's got the dragon sub theme to it. It's very, very fun, very synergistic, and I think it makes for fun games because it speeds everybody up a little bit, but just a little. So I think that's pretty excellent. I also brought Yorion, the Sky Nomad. It is, a blue-white blink deck. I got to be honest, of all of my decks, it's one that for whatever reason has consistently been disappointing. I'm not entirely sure why.
I struggled building a blink deck too because, like, I had a rune deck for a really long time, and like it's just I have a response, I'm gonna get all this value, but like sometimes it's just hard to get over that finish line. And like when you just sit there and lose after loss after loss, it's just like, okay, maybe this isn't really what I'm looking for. That's the disappointment I've gotten with my blink decks.
It feels ineffective. It feels like it's not even doing what you designed it to do, which is a lot of value. So I'm not really sure. So I brought that one because I think that I wanted to bring something that I actually feel is at least a little bit lower powered, and I think that one is. Now I actually bought some new cards for it, and I think that the things that I added to it really ramp the power.
Ooh, I'll have to see that next week maybe.
And what I mean by that is that it has more combos that will just finish the game
okay.
now. So
that's good.
Like it just should be able to get to them faster because there's more redundancy built into it. And then finally, I brought Mishra Claim by Gix. which
I
is
love that
like
one too.
it's my meme deck.
Oh, of course.
It's like because melding the commander and doing
It's
big
just
play.
so great.
It's so funny, and it's actually surprisingly good
Hmm.
as a deck because and really like Rakdos. I think it is tough for me to play. It's not a two color combination that I would play in Commander
Hmm.
very often. So it's one that I struggled with finding the best commander for. So Mishra was the fourth one I brought. So
Yeah.
now it's your turn. Tell us about the decks that you brought and why.
So the first deck that I brought, it's my baby deck. I've had it started off as Omnath, Locus of Rage, but as soon as I saw Lord Windgrace spoiled, I had to make it Jund because everyone loves a good old Hypno Toad. That is probably my strongest deck right now. Um, it used to be Turbo Titan, but I made some changes to it, and I just wanted to get a couple of reps in with completely random people and see how it did. But I did bring that to be on the competitive side if that's what people wanted to play. My second deck that I brought was my Garth One Eye deck, which has crazy powerful cards, right? But it only wins with the door to nothingness. So that's why my first goal was to get a foil door because I had a regular door, but I needed a foil door because I like my shinies. Um so I brought that deck because that's my main deck, but it's very powerful. Like it has all the powerful cards in the world, but it has a very obscure goal, and no one will know what that goal is until it's already too late. So the third deck I brought was my Sisei Shrine Tribal. Um, and that's also just a meme deck. It's a deck that I had a deck building constraint. It's a little bit lower on the power level scale of things. Um, because it's the Shrine Tribal. All my non-land permanents are legendary. So like there's no soul ring in it. If it's not legendary, it's not in there. So even like cards that like I forget the name of that relic, but it costs 3 and you can untap it by tapping a legendary creature. I refuse to put it in there because it's not legendary itself, so it
You
doesn't
talking
belong.
about Coalition Relic?
No, it's a new one. It just came out I think last year. It costs 3 and it taps for any color.
I,
And
I'm
then
just I'm just thinking of the wrong. I know what you're thinking of.
yeah,
I
I
just
can't
gave it
think
the
of the name
wrong
of that
name.
card. I can never remember it because I refuse to know what it is because I want it out of my memory because of how much it broke my heart when I saw that card. Um, and I think I only brought the 3 decks. I honestly don't remember if I brought a fourth. Um, because I was
Remember if I
originally
did
good.
miss anything else? I don't think
Yeah,
so.
I think I only brought 3 because I was originally going to bring a fourth. Was going to be my Phage deck, but I wasn't so pleased with how it's been playing. So I like the list of cards that I brought,
That's
like for my list, was to upgrade that deck, and I didn't get much trading in, so I just kind of like bought the high priced ones because you're going to find higher priced cards from vendors slightly cheaper. So I was like, okay. So I bought some of the higher value cards, and I didn't bring it because it just hasn't been performing as well. So but I wanted to bring the meme ones, the decks that win in very weird ways. So
They're
those
memorable,
they're
right? And I
very
think
memorable.
that's a big takeaway because it's something that I know that when we talk about the actual nuts and bolts of our experience, that is something that I walked away with. Like the memorable decks that I played against
The
are
ones
some
that I
of the
remember,
like
yeah.
yeah, they're the ones that's the experiences that really stick out to me in this. So before we move on, I just want to say that card is called Relic of Legends.
Thank you. Yeah.
Right, and you actually tap and untap legendary creature to add a mana, so it doesn't
Oh,
actually
it doesn't untap it. Okay.
right, which is actually in a lot of ways better
Better.
because
Oh
it
yeah.
gives you a way to tap your, because you can actually use the legends what the turn they come in to as mana to
Oh,
rest them.
because it's not a tap ability. The relic is
That's
tapping
Yeah,
the
the
legend.
relic isn't tapping. It's tapping something else as a way to
Wow.
activate the thing. Yeah, it's really really great in Legends Matter, but you gave yourself the restriction, so you can't have it.
I can't have the nice things. So there was one thing I wanted to bring up. Another goal of mine, I forgot to mention this earlier, was actually I wanted to buy a Badlands. I only own now 3 dual lands, and it's for my Windgrace deck. And it was just like, okay, I have the money, I'm gonna get it. So like after I bought the door, the next thing I went and looked for was a Badlands that was priced at a price that I was willing to pay. So, but I found it. I'm happy with my Badlands, and it's nice and pretty. So, now that we've talked about like what our goals and expectations going in, let's talk about like how you prepare to go. So like for me, like I made sure I had a snack that I could have I brought a bag of beef jerky, which was actually a really good snack for us to bring. I ended up only eating half of it while I was there because like that's one of those snacks where you take 1 or 2 pieces and it kind of fills you up, right? It fills you up enough that you don't want to eat a whole bag. It's not like a bag of chips where you're going to eat a whole bag of chips, but you can't just have one. But you can just have one beef jerky for you all to know. If you're listening, beef jerky companies, please sponsor me. But so so what kind of stuff did you do that wasn't magic related that you had like you kind of prepared for like things that you brought?
So I think that good convention kind of practice. There's a couple of things that I have learned over time. Now, in this case, it should be mentioned that that Philly Magiccon, because it's in Philly, and if you don't know anything about Philly, Philly is still operating under kind of more strict COVID precautions than a lot of other places are.
Mm-hmm.
So the conference center did require that you have masks. So I'm gonna say I think it's a good rule of thumb for a convention goer to have masks available, period. Because I actually
Right,
think that it's good convention protocol to wear a mask if you feel even slightly ill. Like if you're
right,
experiencing some illness symptoms, and anybody who's been a convention goer, like other non-magic related conventions, will when they hear the term con crud, they'll know what I'm talking about because infectious diseases pass through closed quarter human beings very easily. So having a mask if you're feeling any kind of way can allow you to still participate and reduce the risk to other people. So that's one thing that I would have brought with me even if I hadn't had been
right,
required to.
right.
And again,
I
I
brought a
think
whole
as long
bunch.
right. Go into and really like if you bring more than what you need, you can help other people out if you
Right.
need to too. So I think that again, however you feel about it, it can be a really good idea to have it just in case you're feeling under the weather. Water. Bring your own water. Bring your own water bottle. It is a
Mm-hmm.
very useful thing to have with you.
Mm-hmm.
As long as you have something, if you have it with you, you don't have to worry about where it's coming from. And I can't abide paying for water. Man, does it make me salty to ever have to buy a bottle of water
Yeah,
somewhere.
and
So
especially when you're at a convention, a 20-ounce bottle is going to cost you $7.
yeah,
So
yeah, and that's something that I'm sure we'll get back
we'll
into at some
discuss that
point.
once we're in the dooring for sure.
Yeah, like what happened on day one, right?
Oh, that
And
was miserable.
so, I mean, that is definitely something to consider. So, I don't consider the other part is I really think that wearing something that is comfortable, wearing comfortable shoes, trying to be very mindful of how much you have to carry and how it feels to carry those things, because
I'm glad you brought that up. I have something to add
yeah,
to
a
that.
lot of people can kind of over prep for situations like that. And I watch people having to huck all this really difficult stuff around. If you know that you're going to be at an event like this, and you're not somebody who's like cosplaying or doing something of that nature, do whatever you can to make yourself comfortable. It's going to make your experience better. So those are just a couple things that I thought that I did to prep for the event, to learn
So
about the cards.
the funny thing you brought about that, I have an over the shoulder bag that's meant for Magic cards. And I packed my clothes and stuff in a regular book bag because we were taking the train to get down there. So when I get to the hotel room, I'm like, I'm going to unpack my book bag and put my cards in here, because by the end of the day, I'm going to be miserable if I have like all the weight over on just one shoulder. So I was like, I unpacked my bag, and I am grateful that I did that. Because I would have been miserable. So I'm glad I made some smart choices. So now that we've pretty much gone over our goals, expectations of what we were looking for to do at the convention, let's start discussing what we did during the convention. So what was like the most memorable moment you had during the whole convention?
During the whole time.
Yeah, let's just go with the whole thing. What was your most memorable moment?
Wow. That's really tough. I think that being present for game nights live was a lot more fun than I expected it to be.
So I watched that episode, and I'm like listening for myself, and I'm so, like, I couldn't individually hear me. Now, obviously I'm in the crowd, but I'm a very loud person. If you don't know who, I can be loud, I can project. And I sadly didn't hear myself, but I did see myself a couple times in the crowd. So game nights, you should tag me in that, and we'll be cool.
Yeah. So I actually usually at such things of this nature, I'm not super keen on going and watching performances, because I want to interact with other people, and I want to, like, again, we're there to play a game, so I want to go and play the game. But I gotta say, like, it's one of my regrets, but also something that I thought was really memorable. Watching that was really memorable, and I had a lot of fun doing it. What I regret is not parking my ass in a chair
Early enough, yeah.
early on, so that I could have like been comfortable and been part of the crowd.
Well, so part of the problem was is we played a game right beforehand while we were waiting for it. So
right.
So that's where we screwed up. But I mean, that game we had was also great.
It was a great game.
It was a great game.
But it did go long.
It
right?
did.
So it was like we were there at the end, like, oh, I really want to wrap so I can go steal a chair.
And then it ended with a double cyclonic rift and me dooring everybody. It was fantastic.
So it really, I would have done that a little bit differently. And like looking at my kind of list of how I would do things differently in the future, is that like I actually think that being present for some of those presentations is a good thing at this kind of event, and maybe I should be more open to doing something like that, to being being part of the crowd during a performance rather than just always playing games with people.
Right. So my most memorable moment was I got to play a game with Murph, okay, from the command zone, and the game was swingy. It was incredible, and like right after he signed, I'm like, hey, do you want to play a game real quick? And he was like, sure. So then I got to door to nothingness everyone at the table, including Murph, and he sent his own regards. It was probably one of the coolest things. And the fact that he was so, like, I told him, I was like, look, I stream Magic the Gathering. I'm going to start a podcast. I'm like, I gave him my business card, and I was like, and how encouraging he was. Like, just the fact that you're making gameplay content is incredible. You got, like, it's really hard to do, and I give you props for doing it. And the amount of encouragement that man gave me just like made me feel like everything that I've done over the last 2 years was worth it.
It was really neat, and I just got to fly on the wall that. I wasn't really part of it, I was just standing nearby, but it was really cool to see somebody who is very clearly part of the content creation world, somebody who's kind of doing the thing that we aspire to do, and watch him be incredibly supportive. That was incredibly heartening just to watch, and I got that sense from really all the content creators and the way I saw them interacting with other people.
Right.
One of the biggest pluses of the experience was to kind of see that unfold in real time. One notable thing I remember pointing it out to you when we were there, is that they have this Black Lotus section
And no
of the
one
room,
was there.
and nobody sat there. None of the like VIPs, the people who purchased those Black Lotus memberships, no one went to that part of the room to play. And as a matter of fact, that's changed even further moving forward. My understanding is that at the next Magiccon, they're gonna stop segregating the command zone at all,
That's
and they're
good. I
and
mean,
that the
yeah,
command zone is
that's
going to
good.
be open. It's going to be included in your purchase of the event, period, so that everybody can go and do that,
Okay.
take part in that.
So I have a real quick question for you before we skip over this. Would you have still bought the ticket that we bought if the command zone wasn't the main draw for it? Because I think I would have, because I like the extra stuff that I got.
We did get some really cool swag, and I think that I think that structuring is going to look different in the future. So we'll never have to ask ourselves that question again.
Good
because
point.
the command zone thing will be included in all the different tiers, so they're actually going to have to use other incentives to get us to buy the higher membership, which is really appealing, because now the question really is, what's the new incentive they're going to offer
Ooh,
for us to buy those higher ticket prices? So
right.
if it's something that's good enough. So I think that to answer your question, if it were structured exactly as it was, and the only extra thing that we got was the swag, I think I may actually have not,
Oh,
just
interesting.
because I think that while we both had really good pulls, and it ended up
Yeah,
being
we
like
did get some pretty good pulls.
pretty good, we could have purchased cards and or packs or played in
Mm,
tournaments and stuff,
yeah,
and gotten that same experience. So maybe not. I guess it depends on how it breaks down. But again, we will never ever have to ask ourselves that question. Next
that's
time,
a very valid point. Yeah.
hopefully they'll have to give us some really cool kind of swag to get us to be at that level.
I'm definitely not going to go to the Magic Fest Minneapolis, but it might be interesting to see how they broke down their ticket prices.
That's the one where it changed. So it would be a good experiment to kind of ask ourselves that question, and to look at it and say,
Right.
how is this different? What is the different tiers of it? But I did hear that and ultimately, that I think that is by way of trying to make the command zone experience of it more affordable for everybody. And
Yeah,
frankly, I think everybody wins in that
I
scenario. I
agree.
think
I
it's
agree.
a great choice, because for those of us who were taking part of that, it just gives us more games to play. It gives us more possible people to play against and with. So I see no bad coming from that.
Yeah. So, why don't we go over day one, like kind of the things that we did, and why don't you go ahead and start? What were you looking for in day one?
So, having not been to a Magiccon before, we didn't know what to expect. So day one was about exploring, figuring out where everything was, figuring out how the system worked, who we had to talk to do what thing. And we definitely, we spent a good portion of the day doing that, seeing what was what, looking at all the different vendors and stuff. And and really, that was also the day that Game Nights Live occurred. So
Right.
that was we were trying to figure out how to kind of section our day up in such a way where we could get games in, but also go to this event and also see the things that needed to be seen and things of that nature. So I think that day one was just all about exploration for me. I have to mention that, like, on day one, that's when we realized very quickly that there weren't food vendors in the convention
Yes.
center that weren't attached to the convention center. And anybody who have ever been to a proper big city convention center knows that it's worse than theater prices. Like they are just gouging you. It's like $6 20-ounce bottles of soda, and
It
that's
was
the
a
floor.
$12 grilled cheese, was it?
It was a $12 grilled cheese that I had, and really, like, Zombie just very quickly was like, definitely not.
Nope, I will go hungry, thanks.
But
I could not do it. I
so
refuse.
like and again, my other convention experiences kind of hampered this in some way, because I really expected there to be food vendors that weren't part of the convention center, either in the building or food trucking it outside. I obviously, where we were in Philly, food trucking it outside was not going to happen, but I
No.
really, really thought that we were going to see something in the convention center, and it was not. It was just
A
the
barren
bare
wasteland,
bonesiness,
yeah.
super expensive
You couldn't even find
convention center.
coffee. Could not
I,
find
I
coffee.
I did not find it until I think day three, and really by the time I did, I was just so spent on buying anything from those vendors. I had already outsourced it, as it were. I had found a coffee
Yeah.
place to stop by
Yeah.
on the way in, so I didn't
Yeah.
have to think about that anymore. But it's definitely something that goes on the list of things I would do different. So, what was day one like for you?
So day one for me, before I wanted to get any games in, I had to find that foil door to nothingness. That was the most important part. And I'm telling you, I was getting scared. I went to every vendor, and I happened to go like the last vendor I hit, and it was the last vendor in the building. I'm like, man, I hope you can make my day. I am looking for a foil door to nothingness. And he was like, you said door to nothingness? I'm like, yes. I have one of those. And I'm like, oh, thank God, you just made so much more money than you think. Like since he had it, I knew I wasn't going to be able to trade for a Shieldred. Everybody wants them. So I was like, you know what? I'm going to buy a foil Shieldred. I'm going to buy a foil door. And then I bought a couple other smaller cards that I had on my list at that moment. So I ended up spending almost $200 on that vendor immediately. Um, and then I saw another vendor that had like a stack of Badlands that were like this high, and I'm like, oh, I'm gonna be able to find the exact price point that I want. So he's like, go ahead, take a look. And then I'm like, okay, this is the perfect price point. I didn't go with the cheapest because I think the cheapest I saw was like $180 for a damaged one. I'm like, is that thing gonna turn to ashes when I touch it? I'm like, no, I couldn't do that. So I ended up, I think a normal Badlands in pretty decent condition is like $400. I found mine for 310, and I was very pleased. Like it looks really good. I mean, there's like little markings on the outside edge or whatever, but you're gonna see that with a white border card anyway. So I was like, it's okay. It's gonna be double sleeved. It's not gonna be like abused or anything like that. So I was really pleased with that. And then like again, another one of my goals was to have my foil door to nothingness signed by as many people from the command zone as possible. I definitely needed Jimmy, I definitely needed Josh, and I definitely wanted Rachel Weeks. So those were the three main people that I wanted to get, because like just having the host of the command zone signing a card is fantastic. And just the we'll get to when they signed it later, because that actually didn't happen on the first day, and I was getting nervous by the end of the first day. I'm like, I haven't seen anybody. I was getting scared. But so those were the three main things. And then also game nights live, I wanted to be in the crowd. I wanted them to acknowledge my existence, because I did make them laugh, but that was a different story. But I was just glad to be a part of the crowd, and I actually ended up getting a free, like 2 free packs of Phyrexian All Will Be One, because when one of the people came out, there was someone behind him just handing out booster packs. I'm like, he's like, he had a whole stack of them, and then he just like gave it to me, and I'm like, okay, like, and then halfway through it, I saw someone on the edge like skirt out of there, so I real quick snuck in and stole his seat. So then I actually got a seated spot like halfway through the game, and it was really cool. So but that was my like that was my day one. I got it like maybe 2 or 3 games in, like after. So we got the game before, and then maybe there was like 3 or 4 games after Game Nights Live. But mostly it was I wanted to get the really, excuse me, I really wanted to get the expensive cards bought and out of the way. Because I wasn't sure how availability would be, especially with all the people coming. And I'm like, if I get it day one, I'll have it. So that's really what, like, I did most of my card buying day one. So, so how was day two? Like, how was day two for you?
I think in like true convention fashion, day two was where it really like where people showed up, where the population really bolstered, where it really felt like the event was full. Because Friday night, even with Game Nights Live being on Friday night, it still did not feel as full as it did at the beginning of the day on Saturday. So with like the first thing that happens on Saturday is we go in and we're there a little bit before the doors are supposed to open.
Oh, I have an interesting story about that too.
So what I thought, and I know that other people were upset about this as well, and I think that it's worth mentioning is that we have to go all the way down to the entrance, all the way down to the end of the building,
Literally a block away.
Right, and then they walk us all the way back to, basically from 2 blocks, as a matter of fact.
Oh, was it 2 blocks? Oh my God.
13th Street all the way back up to 11th to kind of shuffle us into a line that is going to be where we wait until the gates actually properly open. And I know that I'm not alone because there were people who were in
there were so many angry,
very salty. That really like that choice seemed, and I understand why they made that choice. They made that choice because the room that they put us in was the biggest room in the building, so that they could put us all in there without it being really overly problematic. But like it really felt like a very strange choice because it's really like we had to walk all the way from one end of the building to the other to get in, and then back through the building to go wait in the line, and then wait until we go into the building. So we very quickly came to the conclusion, like, we're not showing up before the doors open ever again.
Nope.
There's no good reason to do it. Just wait until the time that you're actually that the doors are open, which in this case I think was 10.
Yeah.
So we showed up at 9:45 on Saturday morning, and we're immediately like, we should not have done this.
We regret our decision.
No joy in waiting in line there. Just show up at 10:10 or 10:15.
Well, so there was a reason why we went there early enough, because I knew Jimmy and Josh Lee Kwai were doing a signing that morning. So I wanted to go there and wait in the line before the line existed. So I wanted to get there before a huge crowd formed, because we knew that they were doing a signing at, I think it was at 10. No, it was at 11. And I was like, honestly, I'm just going to wait at line at 10:15 and wait to get this card signed. And then something that happened to me really frustrated me. So like I had talked to one of the people that had like the line cap signs. And I'm like, I've been looking for, these people at game nights. Do you know if like Lady Danger or Rachel Weeks will be doing something along the lines here? So she was answering my question, and then she, like, halfway through answering my question, she's like, oh, people are going to start forming up around you. I'm like, okay, like, that's why I'm here. And as she's answering my people start forming up. Like, there was like this like seatbelt rope thing, and I'm sitting standing not at the corner, but I'm like 1.5 feet away from the corner, because that's where she happened to be standing. I didn't want to get too close because, big bad germs, and personal space is a thing as well. So I was talking to her, and then people they wrap around me and start forming. And then, because I went there to get the card signed, so after she answered my question, she's like, oh, if you want to wait in line, you have to go all the way back here. I was like, but I'm the one that started the line. Like, I came here early to get a question answered. and then B, wait in line. Like, this isn't just like a one, like, I wasn't just talking to you because I randomly found you. I chose you because you were here. And that really frustrated me. So I refused to wait in line. But I was like, okay, this thing's probably only going to be an hour. So I ended up sneaking back afterwards and got my card signed. I got Josh and Jimmy to sign it at the end of that signing, because like they were just finishing up the last person, and I'm like, hey, do you guys mind signing a card real quick? I know like you're supposed to be done, but like I really would like you to sign my foiled door to nothingness. And they're like, foiled door to nothingness. And they thought it was great. And then they signed my card. So I ended up getting what I wanted, just not necessarily in a way, because I would have loved to have had pictures with them and, you know, maybe given them a business card and had a small conversation while we're getting pictures of swords that I would have gladly have paid for, because that would have been great to have on my new back wall here. But I refused to wait in line because like I tried to start the line, but apparently I started too soon. And that was kind of upsetting.
That's the tough part about like trying to do that, right? Like trying to subvert the thing by being there earlier or doing the thing, is that you may end up.
My punctuality freaking ruined me.
It's tough. That's tough.
But
also, I think so. Day two is also when I think that I really started to realize that the opportunity for trading was not going to be as robust as I expected it to
definitely
be.
wasn't existing. Yeah,
I'm still surprised by that. I'm not really sure what happened there. I don't think that's probably always the case. Not going to stop me from trying again in the future, but really, like, there just wasn't. For whatever reason, you know, every time I asked, I did get a couple of trades in, but it really wasn't.
Everyone was like, "Oh, I already sold all my stuff."
Right. So, and
like,
as that became clear,
you
know, through the course of the day, that's when I started to think to myself, I think this is the way that I'm going to have to do this, is that I'm essentially going to have to trade with a vendor.
That's when I decided I did this entirely wrong. I was like, next time, because I don't get to trade with people, so the next time that I do this, I am literally just gonna bring all my stuff and ship 90% of it, because when I'm building a new deck, I'm usually too lazy to go through all the stuff that I have to find the cards that I might have, when I can just go to cardkingdom.com's hopefully future / zombie apocalypse. That would be great. Please sponsor me, Card Kingdom. But I just go to Card Kingdom and just put a giant list together and buy what I just buy it all. I even buy basic lands because I'm too lazy to go find them. Mm-hmm. And then I get all matching basic lands, and then I get to choose the basic land that I want to go in the deck and everything like that too. So it just makes it easier. Like if I know, like, I'm just like, it's too much work. So like trading is a thing of the past. The pandemic has ruined everything. So I don't get to see people in store, and like I've had 3 trade binders for the last 3 years, and the only person I trade with is sitting across the screen here, and we end up trading back and forth for the same 5 cards. I swear to God.
We just keep handing the same card back and forth. Like that Veldican Orrery is.
That's the third time. That's the third time I've had it, but I think it's sticking around. So
yeah. So I think that, you know, they will wrestle trading from my cold dead hands. So I'm not going to give up on it just yet. But I do think that knowing that the vendors are set up in such a way where they have their setup designed to be able to field what people trading in cards to them, so it's really the best opportunity. Because when I think about doing it at something like an LGS, it's like LGS, you've only got the one person working, you're monopolizing their time when they got other stuff to do. Every time I've ever done that, it has felt terrible. Like, I'm just like, I don't think I'm helping.
You also kind of get less, I feel like.
I believe you're absolutely right. The bigger companies are able to offer you more. So if you're trying to turn your cards, which we, you know, both of us definitely were on that day, trying to turn your cards, it is a good opportunity to do that. So I think that the answer is a little bit of column A and a little bit of column B. So if I were going to do it again, I definitely would still have a trade binder, although I would definitely consider paring down.
I like your thoughts, like where you have a trade binder where like these are things that I might want to keep and I could trade for good value versus here's my other stuff that I definitely know I'm going to get rid of and I have a list of cards that I want to buy anyway. Like that's brilliant. I'm glad you mentioned that right now. Like I'm learning to this day of things that we should have done differently, right? So
I think that's how I would do it. I would have a trade binder that is specifically designed to just, this is for people, this is for the people I play against. You know, here's commander staples and legendary creatures that are traditionally used as commanders, and then I'm gonna have a box of, this is the stuff that I'm gonna trade into this store. Like no questions asked. I'm ready to ship this stuff. Let's go. And really, I think that it's probably your best opportunity to trade in bulk as well.
ooh,
Like if they're
I didn't think about that.
if they're taking it, which I'm pretty sure they would, you probably get the highest return on your bulk rares as well.
Sweet.
So I can't even tell you how many bulk rares I got at this point. So really, I think it would be a great chance to do that.
That's really smart. So, I know day 2 we decided we wanted to do a sealed event, and we were having trouble finding the sealed event we wanted. So,
Right.
I originally wanted to do a sealed event of Phyrexian All Will Be One because I genuinely enjoy this set. I'm not well versed enough in the cards to do a draft and do well, and I feel like I'm pretty lucky when I pull cards from a pack, and then I can just like I just like the idea of having 6 packs and just choosing from those packs. I generally do relatively well. I pulled money in my sealed event, but I didn't do very well, and I dropped after round 1. I ended up getting a Force of Will and a No Mercy, which is one of the cards that was on my list for my Phage deck, and I was just like, oh, I got a No Mercy, this is great. And then I'm like, I got a Force of Will too, by the way. And then it was funny because I asked the guy that was sitting across from me when we were doing the sealed event, and I'm like, so what am I gonna pull today? Like what good card am I gonna pull? He's like, a Force of Will. And then like,
Really?
yeah. And then I'm like, I think it was in my second pack. I was like, oh, by the way, thanks for the Force of Will. you
Well
did,
done,
you
sir.
did this,
Across the
sir. He's like, are you serious? I'm like, yeah, it's right here. And he's like, oh, you lucky
Called it into
dog.
existence for you.
Yeah.
Perfect.
I know during the sealed event, you started getting a headache, right?
Yeah, so I mean, like this is something that can happen to anybody. I mean, I'm prone to it, so
Oh,
I
me
think
too.
that, like looking back, there were a lot of factors that came into it. But I was just like, I was sitting there, I was looking at my sealed pool, and just not feeling great. And I thought to myself, if I try to tough this out, I'm gonna end up losing the whole day. So
Mhm.
I decided in that moment, I'm not gonna do that. I'm just gonna go, I'm gonna bail on this. I'm gonna get some downtime, go back to the hotel and take a nap, and get some quiet time away from all these people. So maybe I can rally and come back later in the day, which I was eventually able
Oh
to do
yeah,
that.
and I could see the tonal shift
Oh
in
yeah.
your mood
Oh yeah.
before the sealed event versus after you came back. And
And I
um
think that I gotta say that I think that
that was the
my
smartest play you had the
it's
whole
smartest play.
weekend.
And that is my convention experience,
Mhm.
meaning that like that I made that decision because I have made the opposite decision before and regretted it. I
Mhm.
have, instead of just taking the, getting out of the situation, taking a little bit of rest and trying to recover, I have just tried to suffer through a thing, and it's never worked out for me in a good way. So when I really had other things I wanted to do that day, I wanted to get some more commander in. So I'm sitting with this sealed pool in front of me and going, I don't really care enough about this to suffer through this if it's going to cost me the opportunity to do these other things later on. So, and really, I'm very
Mhm.
grateful that I did, because I came back and got to play some great games after I came back,
Yeah.
and I was feeling much better after the fact. So, and I think that I might be wrong about this, but I think that day 2 is I was gonna say day 2 is the day we played against the 4 for 4 guy, but now I'm doubting myself.
No, I'm pretty sure that was day
Was
two.
that
I
one?
think day
'Cause
two.
that was the same game that we got the booster tutors.
Yes. Oh, I got 2 booster tutors from Sheldon Elementary.
Did you really?
Yeah, and the first one I was getting land screwed, and
We got to land.
I got a conclusion force. I'm like, this is exactly what I needed. And then the second game, sadly, I already died. And I was like, oh, well, since I'm dead. And he's like, yo, you can still keep the pack. I'm like, oh, thanks. I got a swamp monster or something like that. It's like a Grixis and 2 for a 5/5 swamp walk. And it's not good. But I got it. But I was like, Sheldon, can you sign this before you go? Like, and he's like, oh yeah, absolutely. So I got a signed card from Sheldon Elementary from the booster tutor. That was probably one of the coolest things. But yeah, I'm pretty sure that was day 2, because day 2 is where I got the bulk of all my the bulk of my signings, because that's the day I had the game with Murph. People from the command zone booth came up and talked to Murph as we're playing, and I'm like, oh,
maybe it was day 2. So anyway, I wanted to mention it, so if it ever gets back to him, he'll get the props he deserves. But
the 4 for 4,
was
such a good deck.
4 for 4, and he had custom sleeves that were like the Wendy's 4 for 4 meal, and every non-land card in the deck had 4 CMC or 4 mana.
Was it 4? Yeah, I guess it was all just 4 drops, wasn't it?
It was. It was all. The whole deck was 4 drops, and
it worked.
It was Omnath, so
yeah,
was still busted.
So, that just shows you how good that Omnath is.
It really does.
And he had, so he did have Kyogre or whatever his name as a companion, and
that's right.
And he kept blinking it, and it was just disgusting.
Ooh, I mean, because remember that every permanent in the deck it triggers.
Yeah, it was disgusting
on his companion. Yeah, it was, but it was a very memorable game. He was a very pleasant person to play with.
Oh, so much fun.
The deck was really fun. That was also the game that Sheldon shows up with and is like, "How serious is this game?" And we have no idea how to answer that question.
Yeah, right.
Are we in trouble?
Zombie apocalypse, please report to the main office. Like, that's what I was afraid was about to happen. He's like, you are banned from Commander. Like, when you have Sheldon Menery, the guy who created Commander, and he's like, how serious is this? Because like, you're like, oh god, what? Like, I'm about to get struck down by
for the table. Is he gonna kick us off of our table?
Like,
we're gonna let him.
Oh, of course. Like, I was afraid to get smite by the Commander God, But
so instead, he gives
us stuff, which is amazing.
Hands us a booster and says, pick one card out of it and put it into your hand. Which I don't think anybody got like a crazy thing out of it. Two out of 4 people took lands. The card I took, I never even cast.
Right. I don't think 4 for 4 casted either. Because
I think he took a land. Is
that what it was?
Yeah. So, but that was very memorable for a couple
definitely
of different reasons. But I just want to give the shout out to the 4 for 4 guy. If we see you again, hope
you were amazing. I would love to have you in one of my Commander gameplays.
Yes, yeah, come play with us on spelltable.
Yeah. So day 2 is where I got the bulk of my signings. As I was saying before, I was in the middle of a game with Murph, and I'm like, oh my god, there's more people. I was like, I wish I could search for my door to nothingness right now so I could have you sign. He's like, oh no, we'll be at the booth. Like, come after this game and we'll sign your cards. It would be great. I would love to. And then I ended up like having to find the door after that game. And I was like, by the way, you should look at this, because this deck would be amazing to have on game nights, because it's such an original deck. And it has like I think I've only attacked with that deck maybe 2 or 3 times.
And it's never really been to like try and win. It's attack to get advantage.
Like I want a treasure token or something, right? Yeah. Like
it's always been to just get some, trigger some ability that's going to move you forward. You've never killed somebody by attacking them.
That's not true. I think I killed someone with a Shivan Dragon once, because if I didn't kill them, I was going to lose the game.
Okay, that's fair. It's built into your commander, but it does ruin absolutely every other win you've ever had.
I know I shouldn't have brought it up because now I have to tear the deck apart. Thanks,
Now it is
man.
staying on recording for all
I know
time.
it's we're ruined. So I got the only person I didn't have sign my card by the end of day 2 was Rachel Weeks. She was the only person left that I had to sign my door. But I also did get the Asian Avenger and Jeremy Knoll to sign my playmat. So my playmat has like it's a picture of my kids playing Magic 6 layers deep, right?
I didn't know you got Krim to sign your playmat.
And he like his signature is designed to look like Grizzlebrand's horns.
That tracks.
Yeah. Oh, so much. I'm so happy he did too. So now I have I have a JN and the Grizzlebrand horns next to my daughter because she's the devil. No, I love her to death. She's amazing.
Two things can be true at the same time.
Not mutually exclusive. So that was our day 2. I think honestly, day 2 was my favorite day out of the whole event. Now that we've been talking about day 2 for a while, let's go ahead and go with through day 3. And like towards the end of day 3, I was kind of getting like commandered out, right? Like we had played a solid 20-30 games, and I'm used to only playing 4 or 5 a week, right? And that's at the most. Usually it's 2 or 3. I was getting kind of commandered out, and our train wasn't leaving until 6 o'clock, I think 6 o'clock at night.
Right. Yeah.
And it's hitting like 3 o'clock, and I'm like, I'm done. I bought everything that I need to buy. And we're like, okay, well, so what do we do? And we're like, we could just walk to 30th Street, 30th and Market. So that's what we did. And we had a great talk here. That's why we're actually here right now, is because we actually were like, we should start a podcast. So here we are starting a podcast. So us being done by the end of the day is why we're here today. So before we go into like ending the day, I did want to bring up like our food experiences throughout the week. Okay. So I'm going to put this restaurant on blast because I swear I became Gordon Ramsay for a solid hour and a half while we were there. The place is called BurgerFi. Do not go there. It's like it all started with how the restaurant was set up. Okay. You walk into the door, you walk to the right, and you walk to the left, and then you walk to the left again. The soda machines are on the far right wall, but the way the line's set up is you're supposed to go left after you pay for your food. But how are you supposed to get drinks besides swimming upriver to try to get drinks? And then there's no tables over there, so you have to then swim down the river to get past people to find your own damn table.
So let me halt you from going too far down the rabbit hole, because he will go on seriously
for hours. I couldn't stand it.
He could do a whole episode about how bad BurgerFi was, but let's just summarize it by saying it was a very poor experience, and we were trying to go somewhere that wasn't like, I mean, frankly, it was kind of a chain, but not a huge chain. Right. So we look at that and we go, oh, burger joint should be easy, should be relatively quick.
Hard to screw up a burger.
Right across from the convention center, should have been easy. Definitely was not. Just a negative experience across the board. So yeah, doesn't exactly get our stamp of approval as far as restaurants go.
Now second and third day. Okay, so we only went to 3 restaurants while we were there. So I guess technically 4. We decided to eat breakfast the next morning at the hotel. They had a all-you-can-eat buffet.
That's right.
The buffet was great. No complaints there. So we decided to support local businesses from here on out after the buffet in the morning. So Chinatown is literally 2 to 3 blocks away from the convention center.
Not even. It is practically the same block. It's like if you turn the correct direction out of the Philly convention,
you're in Chinatown.
You are looking at Chinatown. And I cannot say, I've been in Philly a lot for conventions, and I cannot say enough good things about Philly Chinatown. So we go down that street. We really find the very, very first place. I think it was technically Malaysian.
Oh, it was so good though.
And really, like, I actually think that I had been there before, but it was super authentic, like fantastic, actually great service. Everything came out real quick and just spectacularly good food. And it was, again, way more authentic and very clearly a local business.
So the only thing that threw me off guard is I ordered a Coke. I was not expecting to get a can of Coke.
Right, which is a pretty normal thing.
I never go to Chinatown. Like, this is like, I have a very like set list of restaurants that I generally attend to.
Remarkably, I find that it is true about Asian restaurants as a rule, regardless of whether or not.
Oh, I guess the Chinese restaurant near us sells cans and they don't have fountains, but also it's like a delivery place too. So like it makes sense for that too.
Right. There's lots of places that I have seen, which, again, as people who have worked in the restaurant industry, as both of us have, it seems a little confusing why you wouldn't have a fountain service for the people in your restaurant, because it's way cheaper for you, but they just don't. I wasn't surprised, but
I was, but you know what? Honestly, like, there's something about canned Coke that just hits the spot.
It does. I agree. If you can't get it out of the fountain, canned is definitely second best.
Yeah. So the food was fantastic there. We ended up splitting an appetizer and getting each of our own. And like, I swear I never had food as good as that. It was chef's kiss. Gordon Ramsay would approve.
I agree.
And then day 3, we didn't want to do the buffet again because, quite frankly, it was really expensive. And we're like, okay, well, there's a mart literally across the street in a different direction than BurgerFi and Chinatown. So we decided to go there, and we walked around the mart a little bit just because it was one of those things where we're like, okay, we want to get out of our hotel room. We don't want to be in there anymore, but the gates don't open for another 45 minutes. So we're like, okay, well, let's go get some food before we go. So I think you said you were looking for donuts or something.
I was. So what Zombie's talking about is Reading Terminal Market.
Thank you.
It is the central city market in Philly. And if you've never been, if you have been, you already know what I'm talking about. I don't have to explain it to you. If you've never been, it is fantastic. It is a great central market, lots of really, really good options. I was looking for, I think it's called Beeler's Donuts. They have one in the area where we are from as well. And so I was really hopeful that I would be able to find it there, but I couldn't. But we got the just spectacular cheesesteaks when the place opened. That was an example of getting in line before a place opened that absolutely paid off.
Definitely paid off.
We were like the first dozen people to get cheesesteaks that day, and man, it's very funny because we made these lists. What are the most memorable things about your trip? That's on mine.
Mm-hmm. Oh, absolutely.
Cheesesteak breakfast on day 3. Perfect.
Dude, let me tell you. So I ended up getting cheese fries with bacon on them too, because, I'm a bigger dude. I like to eat. But I was like, you know what? I'm going to save half my cheesesteak, for the train ride home or whatever. So I was like, then I don't have to go and get another restaurant meal or anything like that. And I was like, I'll be prepared. So, and let me tell you, Philly does Cheese Whiz right.
It's I don't know why it would be surprising to anyone.
But it was delicious. But now that we're done talking about food, before we get sidetracked crazy amounts, as I said, day 3, I was kind of done. Another goal that I had, I forgot to mention earlier, is I have these really fancy business cards and I wanted to hand them out to people, but I didn't want to be rude or just be like, make it rain business cards or anything, because like, I'd rather have, like, since I am in now the podcast and streaming industry, I'm trying to build a community, right? So like, there was some games where like I didn't necessarily click with the people all that well. I decided not to give them business cards. It's just like, I mean, you're cool. I had a fun time while I played with you, but it wasn't like I didn't have a blast with you. I didn't like laugh, or I just didn't necessarily have the best personal connection. So I just didn't hand out a business card. But like, I always asked them, hey, you know, I stream, I post commander content on YouTube. Can I give you a business card so you can check it out? And I felt like I handled handing out business cards really, really well while I was there. And yeah, I mean, that was obviously I'm giving out cards every day, and then I gave cards to all the commander crew. I'm like, hey, you guys make great content. You know, if you could take a look, just tell me what you think, leave a comment saying, hey, this is what I liked, or like any sort of constructive criticism would be fantastic, because I'm willing to take. I want to make the best. I want to be I want to be the higher echelon. I want to be a part of the command zone crew. I want to get invited to game nights on the merits of my content. It would be amazing. So I felt like I handing out business cards really well, and yeah, but as I said earlier, day 3 wanted to get done. Kind of like,
Yeah.
I enjoyed the walk home.
The only other thing that happened for me on day 3, oh, excuse me, is I had to turn over. I turned in a bunch of cards on day at the end of day 2.
Yes.
When I realized I wasn't going to be able to trade for the things that I wanted, I was like, I'm gonna make this happen anyway. So I made the absolute biggest trade of my entire Magic career. I dropped a whole lot of cards. I'm not gonna talk money, but I dropped a whole lot of cards, and then I end up with all this store credit at one of these big vendors, and I went through and I tried to spend as much as I could, but I still ended up walking away with a fistful of cash. So then I got to go around to all the place and just do that thing that we all want to do, and just spend incredibly freely. And I tried really hard to kind of ball out. And I guess, like, looking back, I definitely did, but at the time it really felt like it was a lot of fun. I should say that. I really enjoyed myself because I got to go around and pick up all these things to kind of trick out a couple decks. I got full art foils for a couple of my decks.
Oh, I remember that. Yeah.
The basics, and I was really pleased with that I was able to get that, because that's a little harder to do when ordering cards online, and you never know what they're going to look like. So being able to see them in person, you can see, is this the kind of foil that is going to turn into a Pringle, or is this the kind of foil that is flat enough to actually make it into a deck? So that was a big part of day 3 for me. And again, but I agree with you. By the time I was done doing that, and then we sat down and I think played like maybe 2 more games.
Yeah.
At the end of the second one, it was just like,
my brain can't function anymore. Like I can't do this anymore.
Time to tag out. Yeah.
But there is one dilemma that I had on day 3. So the dilemma that I had, and I mean, it's a very minor dilemma. They were selling secret layers at the Magic the Gathering thing, and there was 2 things that I was specifically looking at. Okay, and oddly enough, they both involve Lord Windgrace. So I had the choice of getting the secret lair that has the Lord Windgrace. Picture will hopefully be on screen now. Or I saw a really cool Windgrace Forever t-shirt, and it's like Windgrace doing the Chadwick Boseman like arms crossed thing, and I ended up going with the shirt over the secret layer. Not that I had a problem with the secret layer, it's just the other 3 cards that were in the secret layer, just I would never use.
Yeah.
So it was
I've
just
seen that picture a couple more times since then, and I gotta say, I'm more on board now than I was in the moment. And that may have had something to do with, again, it being day 3, being like, I don't know, man. Like, if you want it, you want it. Like, I don't think I can participate in this decision effectively right now. But now that I've looked at it in not so worn out, I'm like, I actually think that the kitten Lord Windgrace is pretty terrific. But at the same time,
I
I
can
think
always
that your
buy it as a
choice
single too.
you can, and your choice made a lot of sense at the time. And what a good dilemma to have. Which really cool thing do I want to buy today?
What cool thing do I want to buy? So, now that we kind of discussed what we did during the event, I kind of want to go over the things that happened after, the things that we learned. So for the next time we do something like this, we can be better prepared and do more of in the future.
Absolutely.
So, what did you learn that you wanted to do?
So we talked a couple times about it, but just to rehash, I think that I went into this Magiccon as a fact-finding mission, as an exploratory mission. I
Mm-hmm.
wanted to see what the scene was going to be like, what is available, what should I bring with me, what's going to make it a little bit better. And the food situation was the biggest change, would be the biggest change for me,
Right.
which is to say I would plan out those things a lot more specifically and also kind of plan for when those things were going to happen. So that would
Mm-hmm.
involve like bringing some snacks along. Your choice to bring along beef jerky was very, very clutch. I think having other things that are easy to eat, not messy and kind of filling. Like I think the trail mix, things of that nature, are a good thing to have along with you in this kind of environment. But also, like I am a person who enjoys a soda from time to time. I also am a pretty
Yes.
heavy coffee drinker, so
Yes.
I do not want to pay $6 for a 20-ounce bottle of soda.
When
So I
I
think it
could
would go
carry
a
it in
really
myself.
right. I think it would go a really long way to just pick up some of those from the a local or from my grocery store before I go. Take it along with me. Have it so that so that I can just take one of them with me for the day. And the same is with coffee. I actually think that being able to stop somewhere on the way in at at Reading
Mhm.
Market or at Dunkin' Donuts or something in that nature, being able to do that on the way in would probably meet that need. But having a plan for what I'm going to do in each of those situations,
Right.
I
Right.
think would have made a huge difference. But the same is true about meals. Like, and I think that we did pretty good figuring out where we
Day
were going
two
to
and day
eat.
three, we did a really good job of that. Yeah.
Right. And really, if we had just made a different choice on day one, we probably wouldn't have had the
We
same
wouldn't have
feeling of
discussion at all. Like,
right. We probably could have done like the very smallest amount of research to know what was close by, so we don't have to like
mm,
think about it in the moment. And I think that that's something that speaks to kind of a my personality is I really am a kind of fly by the seat of my pants person when it comes to travel. And
yes.
I've traveled with lots of people who don't operate that way, and I really am pretty far at the end of that spectrum where I'm just like, I'll figure it out when I get there.
We'll
I
wing
don't.
it.
I will wing it to a fault.
Hmm.
So, and because what bothers me is when people kind of over engineer and over plan a situation where it's like, at 10:10 I have to be at this place and at
This is our
10:15 I have to.
itinerary. Yeah.
Right. But I think that there is a sweet spot. There's a Goldilocks zone here of like some planning, some winging it, but generally having a good idea where and when you're going to be. And I think that that's a big thing that I would do different as well. Now that I know what the event looks like, I would probably plan out my days at least generically a little bit more. So if I'm going to do some sealed events, and that was something I wanted to mention.
I was going to
Like,
say, I'm glad you brought that up because, like, the only thing that I really think that I took from it was if I know I'm going to do at least one sealed event, choosing the sealed event and buying entry to that sealed event when we bought our ticket would have been better than, hey, we're here, let's do a sealed event. Because, like, I mean, as I said earlier, I love sealed. It's like if I'm going to play limited, that's the format that I'm going to want to play. And knowing that, I should have said, oh, let's buy our sealed tickets now so we have our slot, because that was the thing. They were like, oh, we're out of sealed events for this.
for,
So
for, for that set, right? So
yeah.
yeah, I do think that, and I also think that I would have chosen differently because they had the mystery booster sealed
Oh, that would have been fun
events.
too.
And that's just it. Like that is something you're not going to be able to do anywhere else. So as
Right.
cool as it is to kind of do sealed for the newest set, you can do that at your LGS. But what you can't do at your LGS is a mystery booster sealed or a mystery booster convention edition sealed. Like those are
Yeah.
you're
You're not
only
going to
going
get
to
those
get
test
those.
cards anywhere else.
That's right. So I think that like that's what I would be do differently. And I think depending on how much time it would take, I think I might even consider signing up for like one kind of tournament level event for each of the days.
Okay.
So that like and mostly as a way to structure time. Like this is what I'm gonna do the one structured event, and then the rest of the time I'm gonna go do pickup commander games.
Oh
And
yeah.
I'm just gonna do that each of the days, or I'm gonna carve out some time on one day to go to game nights live or go to whatever performance they're doing. I'm gonna carve out time on this day to purge some cards with a vendor. I'm gonna carve out time on this day to do
Mhm.
this. But I think that I'd like to try to get more kind of tournament level events in, maybe one each day. I think that that would make it structured in such a way that would help me engage a little more.
So the I will say I think it was day one we ended up doing a on demand an event, commander event, and I wish that it was slightly more structured. So I knew we were gonna play like higher power level decks. Like he brings Cecile Healy, I bring my Windgrace. I mean, we played against Chatterfang and Adamar, so I'm like, oh well, this game just got serious. But
It
like
was.
I mean, luckily me, I ended up winning with a crazy high Torment of Hellfire after a Chandra's Ignition on a Corvold that's 20 power level or whatever. Um, because Windgrace is stupid. I don't. Anyway, but like I won the pod, but I got same amount as tokens as everyone else. So like it because like in the sealed event, they give you your cards that have your point values and they say, okay, give this to the winner, give this to the loser. But there's not that for the pickup events. So like I mean, I can see that that means hey, it's more of a casual thing, and maybe that's something we could have discussed with our pod mates while we were there. Like because like we got 1,100 points for the pickup game of Commander, which was $10. So, but they gave you each player a 10,000 point or 1,000 point card and a 100 point card, and it should have been okay. The winner of the pod gets all the 100s or something.
Right.
So it's just a minor prize advantage, but that's also something that I learned while I was there. Um, I mean, the pickup game was fun. The people that we played there were pretty fantastic. But I think that's really all the stuff that I learned. Like for me, I would bring a 6 pack of soda because I don't drink coffee and I need my caffeine.
Yeah.
Because I refuse to pay $6 for one 20-ounce bottle of soda. Uh, and then the other thing that I learned was have a binder for trades and have a binder to sell, and like go on day one, sell, and then buy the list of cards instead of trying to trade for a specific list of cards.
I'll say that my last observation about the experience on the whole is that I was really pleasantly I wasn't surprised, but I was happy to see that the kind of niche pseudo celebrities that we have in the Magic
Mm-hmm.
universe were just great. They were super friendly to everybody that they interacted with. Again, I'm going to repeat that there was nobody over there in the segregated Black Lotus VIP zone. Everybody was rubbing elbows with everybody. And now that the Magiccon structure has moved even more in the direction of kind of getting everybody in the same space, I just see that being even greater in the future. And like the possibility that you're going to sit down to a table and end up playing with somebody that you've seen on YouTube or Twitch is higher in that context. And I think that that's what a lot of people are there for, and that for me is a huge draw that the community is moving in that direction. And I like that quite a lot. That is really it really warmed my heart to see all those people out there rubbing elbows with everybody. And again, your conversation with Murph was very memorable to listen to how his constructive feedback and how because he mentioned something that you and I have talked about a lot in the couple of days, and I don't mind saying it here either, is this premise that the rising tide lifts all the boats. Right, which is to say that like there was something about competition. I heard him mention something about competition at some point where he said, "I don't really see other content creators as competition. I see us all as part of the same effort to kind of move the tide up, and really all of us creating content, we can all exist in this space. There's not
Mm-hmm.
a it's not a limited amount of resources for us to be fighting over here. We can all do this and all
Right.
move up together. And so that's why you see so much kind of cross content and people who are over here making content showing up on these other people's shows because they do all interact. And I love that. And just as you said, I would really love to be a part of that. So this is kind of our
Our
infinite
venture into
effort
it. Yeah.
yeah, in moving in that direction. So this was very for us it was a lot of fun, but also kind of, as I said, exploratory and information gathering and what is it going to be like to kind of walk in this world, and overall just I really did have
Super
fun.
positive. So,
Mhm.
one last thing before we end everything. It was funny. I actually recognized one of the people that I raid when I finished streaming on Twitch. I was like, "Do you stream on Twitch as well?" And she's like, "Yeah." I'm like, "I raid you all the time." She's like, "Oh my god, who is it?" And I'm like, "It's me." And she's like, "Oh my god, you do." It was just like a really cool interaction that we had, and it was fantastic. Sadly, her name's drawing a blank, or I would definitely give her a shout out. I will put her link in the bio as well, just because again we're here to help all of us out. So uh, I think now is a good time to proceed to this group phase. If you made it this far, thank you for listening, watching, or however you're consuming our content. The best ways to support the podcast are through Twitch. We play Magic the Gathering as much as we can Thursday and Friday nights, starting 10:30 Eastern time. We also have a YouTube channel where uh, all this is a zombie apocalypse. Check out the not merch yet, but and hit the follow button, subscribe on any of the other listening platforms that we happen to upload this to, and thank you all for watching.
See ya.